Hello, here we are again at the FinetLink channel. We will focus at the basic configuration at Cisco devices. As part of your career in the networking, you might have to set up a new network, maintain or upgrade an existing one. In either case, you will configure switches and end devices so that they are secure and perform effectively based on your requirements. Out of the box, switches and end devices come with some general configuration, but for your particular network, switches and end devices require your specific information and instruction. And in this material, we will learn how to access Cisco iOS network devices, and we'll learn basic configuration commands and use them to configure and verify a Cisco iOS device and an end device with an IP address. And the purpose of this material is to implement initial setting, including password, IP address, and default gateway parameters on a network switch and end devices. And here we will explain how to access a Cisco iOS device for configuration purpose. We will explain how to navigate Cisco iOS to configure network devices. We will describe the command structure of Cisco iOS software. We will configure a Cisco iOS device using command line. We will use iOS commands to save the running configuration. We will explain how devices communicate across network media. We will configure a host device with an IP address. And lastly, we will verify connectivity between two end devices. All end devices and network devices require an operating system. Here it is shown the portion of operating system that interacts directly with computer hardware, and it is known as kernel. The portion that interfaces with application and the user is known as shell, and the user can interact with the shell using a command line interface or a graphical user interface. So let's memorize that. Shell is the user interface that allows users to request specific tasks from the computer. These requests can be made either through a command line or a graphical user interface. Kernel is communication between the hardware and software of a computer and manage how hardware resources are used to meet software requirements. And the hardware is the physical part of computer, including underlying electronics. When a command line is used, the user interacts directly with the system in a text-based environment by entering commands on the keyboard at a command prompt. The system will execute this command, often providing textual output. The command line requires very little overhead to operate. However, it does require that users have knowledge of underlying command structure that control the system. And a graphical user interface such as Windows, Mac operating system, Linux, KDE, Apple iOS, or Android allows the user to interact with the system using an environment of graphical icons, menus, and windows. The graphical user interface given in this figure is more user-friendly and requires less knowledge of underlying command structure that controls the system. And for this reason, most users rely on graphical user environments. However, graphical users environment may not always be able to provide all the features available with the command line. Graphical user interfaces can also fail, crash, or simply not operate as specified. And for this reason, network devices are typically accessed through a command line. The command line is less resource intensive and very stable when compared to graphical user interface. The family of network operating systems used on many Cisco devices is called the Cisco Internetwork Operating System, IOS. Cisco IOS is used on many Cisco routers and switches regardless of the type or size of the device. Each device router or switch will use a different version of Cisco IOS. Other Cisco operating systems include iOS XE, iOS XR, and NX operating system. So what is the purpose of an operating system? Network operating systems are similar to a computer operating system. Through a graphical user interface, a computer operating system enables a user to do this task. Use a mouse to make selection and run programs, enter text and text-based command, and view output on a monitor. A command line-based network operating system enables a network technician to do this task, to use a keyboard to run command line-based network programs, use a keyboard to enter text and text-based command, view output on a monitor. Cisco networking devices run particular version of Cisco iOS. The iOS version is dependent on the type of device being used and the required features. While all devices come with a default iOS and feature set, it is possible to upgrade the iOS version or feature set to obtain additional capabilities. Here, in this figure, it is displayed a list of iOS software released for Cisco Catalyst 2960 switch, as it is shown here. And based on the switch that will forward traffic by default and does not need to be explicitly configured to operate, we will need to configure hosts connected to the same new switch would be able to communicate. Regardless of the default behavior of a new switch, all switches should be configured and secure. And the method that you can configure switch are listed here in this slide, and it will be the description for each of them. Remember that you can configure a switch with a console, secure shell, and telnet. Console is a physical management port that provides out-of-band access to a Cisco device, and the secure shell is an in-band and recommended method for remotely establish a secure command line connection, and the Telnet is an insecure in-band method of remotely establish a command line session through a virtual interface over a network. Some devices, such as routers, may also support a legacy auxiliary port that was used to establish a command line section remotely over a telephone connection using a modem. Similar to a console connection, the AUX port is out of band and does not require networking service to be configured or available. And remember that the first time when you configure a switch or a router, you will start with the console. And then we will have even the terminal emulation program. These are several programs that you can use to connect to a network device either by a serial connection over a console port or by a secure shell telnet connection. These programs allow you to enhance your productivity by adjusting window size, changing font size, and changing color schemes. So we will go with the first one that has this view when you can enter the hostname or the IP address. The port is by default because it's with security shell, and by entering the IP address you will be able to connect with the device that you need to configure remotely. We have even the Tera term, and this will be the view. Here you have to enter the IP address of the device that you need to connect. And the last one is SecureCRT, that has this view where, as you can see, in each of them, by default, it selected the port 22, which stands for the Security Shell Protocol, which means that each connection with the device will be remotely and secured. We mentioned that all network devices require an operating system and that they can configure using the command line or graphical user interface. Using the command line may provide the network administrator with more precise control and flexibility than using the graphical user interface. And here we will discuss about using the command line to navigate with the CISCO IOS. As a secure feature, the CISCO IOS software separates management access into the following two command modes. We have the user access mode and the privilege access mode, and it is listed what can you do in each of those. And here it is listed the default prompt for each device. When you are in the user exec mode, here would be the prompt, and the privilege exec mode, here would be the prompt. And to configure the device, the user must enter global configuration mode, which is commonly called as global config mode. From global config mode, command line configuration changes are made that affects the operation of the device as a whole. Global configuration mode is identified by a prompt that ends with a hashtag after the device name. The global configuration mode is accessed before other specific configuration modes. From global configuration mode, the user can enter different sub-configuration modes. Each of these modes allows the configuration of a particular part of function of the iOS device. Two common sub-configuration modes will include the line configuration mode, used to configure console, security shell, Telnet, or AUX access, or the interface configuration mode, which is used to configure a switch port or a router network interface. When the command line is used, the mode is identified by the command line prompt that is unique to that mode. By default, every prompt begins with the device name. Following the name, the remainder of the prompt indicates the mode. For example, the default prompt for line configuration mode is name of the device, config line, followed by the hashtag. So let's see those configuration modes and how to navigate between iOS modes. Various commands are used to move in and out of command prompts. To move from the user exec mode to the privilege exec mode, you have to use the command enable, and here will be even the prompt. So you have to use the command enable, and you will see that the prompt will change, and this means that now you are at the device ready to go and configure that. And for going from this mode to the exec mode, from privilege exec mode to user exec mode, you have to use the command disable, and here will be listed even the prompt that will change. So with this, you are changing levels of the configuration. To move in and out of the global configuration mode, you have to use the configure terminal. So from this mode, from privilege execute mode, to go to the global configuration mode, you have to use the command configure terminal. And here it will look like. So when you are at the device name followed by the hashtag, so when you are at this prompt by entering the configure terminal, it means that now you are entering the global configuration mode, and here it will be the prompt after that. So inside will be the level of your configuration. By going from the global configuration mode to the privileged exit mode, you have to use the command exit. With the command exit, so you are going from a deeper level to a lower level. So you are going from global configuration mode to the privileged exec mode. To move from any sub-configuration mode of the global configuration mode, so from going from global configuration mode to sub-configuration mode, it depends on what sub-configuration you're gonna go. So if you're gonna go to the secret shell, line PuTTY, or console, you need to enter the line command. So here will be listed the commands, and you will see how it will change the prompt. And before the prompt, you will see that it will be the switch name and the level of your configuration. So it means that now you are at the sub-configuring mode, and actually you are configuring a line. And from going from global configuration mode to sub-configuration mode, when you want to configure a switch port or a router interface, you have to use the interface command. And here would be listed even the command line. And you will see the change of the level of configuration. By configure interface, it means that now you are configuring an interface, so you are in the sub-configuration mode. For going from the sub-configuration mode to the global configuration mode, you can use the command exit, and here will be listed if you are going from the line sub-configuration mode, and here will be listed if you are going from an interface sub-configuration mode. By using the exit command, it means that you are changing levels. You are going up in level, in lower level. If you want to go from sub-configuration mode to another sub-configuration mode, for example, if you want to go from interface to the command line, you can use this just enter the line command, and here would be listed if you are going from the line sub interface to the interface for configuring that. And for example, here you are going from line console to configure an interface to a router as interface fast Ethernet 00. And from any mode, if you want to go directly to the user exec mode, you have to use the end command. And here it will be listed. By using the end command, you will be at this prompt sign. And here is a video at the syntax checker to navigate between iOS modes. From going to the exec mode to privilege mode and vice versa, and how to go in the global configuration mode using the configure terminal command, and how to come back to the privilege exit mode with the exit command. And you will see that from the global configuration mode, what command to use when you need to go to subconfiguration mode for the line console, for the PuTTY, or if you want to go from a subconfiguration mode to another configuration mode. For example, for the moment you are entering an interface VLAN 1, a virtual interface at the switch, and from this virtual interface, so from this, you are going to another subconfiguration mode. And with the end command at the end, you saw that with this, you can go directly to the user exec mode. So we mentioned some of the commands that we use for configuring at the switch or even at the router. They are the same commands. Mostly were commands how to navigate through the iOS mode. But now let's go and explain the structure of a command. And in this topic, we will cover the basic structure of commands from the CISCO IOS. When a network administrator must know the basic iOS command structure to be able to use the command line for device configuration. A CISCO iOS device supports many commands, and each iOS command has a specific format or syntax and can only be executed in the appropriate mode. So you have to be in the level of the configuration to use that command. The general syntax for a command, it is shown here in this figure, and is the command followed by appropriate keywords and arguments. As you can see, here it is the prompt, and after the prompt, there would be the command, a space, and then it will be a keyword or an argument. A keyword is a specific parameter defined in the operating system. In this case, if we are going to use, for example, IP protocol, or an argument when it's predefined and it is a value or variable defined by the user, as in here we are using an IP address. After entering each complete command, including any keyword and argument, you have to press Enter key to submit this command to the command interpreter. And there are some iOS help features that iOS use for the users. And there are two forms or help available. Is the context sensitive help and the command system check. Context sensitive help enables you to quickly find answer to these questions that are listed here in this slide. And to access context sensitive help, you simply enter a question mark at the command line. Command system check verifies that a valid command was entered by the user. When a command is entered, the command line interpreter evaluates the command from left to the right. If the interpreter understands the command, the requested action is executed and the command line returns to the appropriate prompt. However, if the interpreter cannot understand the command being entered, it will provide feedback describing what is wrong with the command. And here will be listed the iOS command line hotkeys that are provided and the shortcuts that make configuring, monitor, and troubleshooting easier. Commands and keywords can be shortened to the minimum number of characters that identify a unique selection. For example, the configure command can be shortened as conf because the configure is the only command that begins with the conf letters. An even shorter version is con, but will not work because more than one command begins with con. Keywords can also be shortened. Here in this table, it will be listed keystrokes to enhance command line editing. And when a command output produces more text than can be displayed in a terminal window, the iOS will display a more prompt. And here in this table, it is described the keystroke that can be used when this prompt is displayed. And at the third table, it is listed the command used to exit out of an operation. And this was all about for the first part of basic switch and end device configuration. Thank you for being with us. Do not forget to subscribe at this channel if you are new and hit the notification button for the new videos that will be uploaded. If you like the video, share it with your friends. See you to the next session.